Welcome to the Coaching Uncovered podcast, a podcast where coaches come to talk about coaching. My name is Brent Davis. I'm the host of the podcast, and I think I've gone to the top of the tree today. I've got very excited about today's guest, player, coach, presenter. Has done just about it all. I've got Brett Rumford on the line. Thanks for coming in, Brett.
Cheers, Brad. How are you this morning, mate?
I'm great. You're sitting in 7 days quarantine after playing some tournaments over here on the East Coast. So First up, how are you coping with that?
I'm actually in my 7th day, so I'm on the other side of it. So I'm actually excited to get out. So my girls are, I'm about an hour south for those that don't know Perth that well. But so I got the hour's drive back tomorrow morning. But just looking forward to seeing my girls. I've been away for 6 weeks, so it was just the unexpected extra week tacked on the end, considering the borders were supposed to have been open on the 5th of Feb. So I actually planned that last 6-week run with the knowledge of just coming back in with the borders open. So McGowan shifted it, unfortunately, to the 4th or something. So I'm just going to miss out on that deadline. So I sort of copped it a little bit, but that's all right.
It's been a challenging couple of years for everybody, I think, and politicians changing their goals or changing the goals of the state it's been a pretty common theme across all the states.
And you guys, you're in Melbourne, yes?
Yes.
So you guys copped it, I think, more so than anyone else on this planet. So I feel for you guys.
It's been
7 days. 7 days for me, mate. I think, I'm complaining to the wrong person.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I've had time at home with my family, so that's always a good thing. So
yeah.
So for the probably the two people that tune into the podcast that don't know who you are, can you give us a bit of a background on who you are?
Yeah, sure. European tour professional, played in the States for 1 year in 2008 as well, but grew up in Australia, played through the Golf Australia, what it was called back then, system. Played for my country, represented my state first, then my country, junior, and then senior level. Played Eisenhower with Kim Felton back when he won that individual. Scott grew up in the era of the Adam Scotts, Scotty Gardner, Wayne Persky, Aaron Badley, Jeff Ogilvy, Greg Chalmers, Stephen Leaney. Those guys were just before me. The Robert Allenby's again, from maybe just before that, but grew up in some really esteemed company, you could say, back in my day, and won a professional event back in 1999 called the ANZ Players Championship, or the TPC. So, and then basically went from there. So I took my 5-year exemption, couldn't take the money, of course, as an amateur, but took my exemption from that point, and then went across to Europe at the end of 2000. Got my card in Europe, and I've been playing over in Europe basically ever since. So, and then sort of somewhere along the line, sort of just developed this reputation of having one of the best short games in the world. So I guess that's pretty cool. That's pretty unique because it's sort of come about, I guess, through my peers, just playing with my fellow peers, which and you know what, you sit in the lunchroom after a round of golf and you play with a flush or someone that hits it miles, and you know what, it's just lunchroom chatter, isn't it? And it's sort of just if you do it often enough, then it becomes a bit of a legend, like so many long drivers out there and so many ball strikers. So, and that's kind of like my story.
But the short game stuff comes up all the time, and we'll certainly cover that more because you hear coaches that aren't from Australia talk about your short game. So obviously it is impressive out there, and you obviously learnt from arguably one of the best in the business early on. So you're in the AIS program at one point there, working with Ross Herbert. Can you talk me through what that program was like?
Yeah, and with Dennis McDay as well. So Dennis McDay was great as well, and I guess that was kind of like his groundwork as well, and his development as a coach. So, and he's gone on to amazing things as well, and I'm sure he took a lot out of that program as well. But Ross was amazing, and of course it's one of those things when you're young at the time, like you're impressionable, you're young, you're just thirsty for this knowledge, you're not appreciative of where it's come from. You just take it for granted that it's just, there's a guy talking about technique and playing all these shots, and it's amazing. Perhaps didn't give him enough credit at the time. And also as well, didn't pick his brains enough as to his legacy, about where he got his information from and his influences, and how he came to be this legend himself. around the greens, and he truly was. So I took a lot of the information. Unfortunately, passed in 2000, which was a devastating blow for Australian golf, and for many individuals that he coached at the time as well. So yeah, look, it was an amazing program. It was it really opened my eyes to being more professional, and obviously competing, more off the golf course than what you actually do on, to prepare yourself for battle. So there was lots of like the 100-point skills test, which is probably just legend now, but we had to do that literally every single morning before we could actually just go mindlessly hit a golf shot anywhere. It was a 100-point skills test. So that sort of, and I didn't really get the full benefits of the actual program until 2 years after I left the program. And then, or maybe like 12 months to almost that 18 months after I left the program. And then all of a sudden I really just started to flourish. I really started to then rely almost on autopilot, could just basically fall back on a lot of these routines and a lot of the mental preparation that I trained so many hours doing. When I got into my position at the TPC, it was almost just, it just came out. I was very comfortable. I was very prepared, shall I say, in the environment that I was playing in. And I would never forget that when I was hitting golf balls on the driving range, I was looking across the driving range, and you fall back into it, is that you just get into that mind-numbing, my elbow, my wrist, and you get very technical. And, when my elbow gets right or whatever it may be, I'll take my game to the next level. But I would just work on literally every single golf shot was just routine. I'd walk back and I'd walk through my routine and hit a golf shot. And I remember doing that. And it's easier said than done to be able to let go of everything and just go into routines and then practice how you would play. But I really, really relied heavily on that, and I had lots of trust in that. And it's got to be trained, but you kind of train out of it, you train into it. And so Ross was legend for that. On top of all this information, he produced, I think, the strength of mind needed to compete at the elite level.
The guy was just, I had the pleasure of sitting in on a short game session when he was coaching Lindsay Wright back in the day, and just to watch what he could do at a little small bunker at Sandringham driving range. It was it was impressive.
We actually used to blame the actual the conditions of the Sandbelt for the fact that I had the best bunkers on the planet. You had the nice hard bays, and you had that nice, that perfect 2-inch of sort of almost that soot. It's like, that's why he's spinning it back, and it's like, still can't do
it. He was so far ahead of his time when it came to that training and that stuff. Like it's stuff that's only coming out now. He was years ahead of his time. So,
and that's what I mean, is that's where I'd love to have known where he got his knowledge from, where he got his influences from, in that sense.
Yeah. Because I still go back to his VHS video on bunkers, and it's just I've still got it, and you still go to it and check it out, because it's such good information. So Speaking of coaches involved in that program, you said you had worked with Dennis McDade as well, but the physical side of stuff as well. So obviously Ramsey McMaster was involved in that program as well. And unfortunately, we've also lost Ramsey, and he's come up in the podcast a few times. Can you tell me what sort of influence that he had on you as a golfer? Yeah.
Ramsey was incredible, and I think it was tying in that team aspect as well. The unity, that it's just not just it's no one-stop shop in terms of coaching. So he definitely had that team environment that we're all very, very much brought up in and accustomed to these days, that everyone's got their specialty in their field, particularly at the elite level. And again, it was just another aspect of what he brought to high performance. So Ramsey was amazing. And again, he was very much about just the postural, the correction, the longevity in the game, and just preserving, like you're out on the golf course for 8 hours a day, practicing, whatever it may be. But again, it was just a holistic approach that he brought to the game. Nutrition was another one as well. He really hampered on nutrition, and obviously preparation. Preparation was massive. Getting to your venue, doing your shopping, just doing all the little things off the golf course that would make you prepared just to walk out there, be mentally prepared, physically prepared, just to go take on the stresses. And obviously what the mental and obviously the physical pressures actually put on you when you're playing 1 week, 2, 3, 4 weeks in a row. So as amateurs, again, I didn't fully appreciate it until I left for what actually Ross was doing. Like he was looking at it in the long game, not just the short term. So we'd play 1 week and then we'd have another 3, 4 weeks off again. So I think we're like, what's the point of this? We're fresh. What are you talking about, Ross? But then when you turn pro, you quickly realize when you're out there for 3, 4 weeks on the road, it's like you needed the maintenance physically. And that's what Ramsey McMaster, with all these exercises, he was in ahead of his time as well. And I think for Ramsey, he was a bit of a visionary. He never really rested on his laurels. He was always coming up with new innovative ways of actually basically being able to monitor and obviously also individually assess the body as well, knowing your own body, where you're at. And then obviously, because we're all different, so it was very much about just identifying your own body, your own weaknesses, and then working on those, and then obviously just maintaining them for the long run. It was brilliant.
It's an important point, and I think it's something that coaches need to be aware of, is the fact that these guys continue to evolve. They weren't just, okay, this is the way we're going to do it, and this is what we do. They changed how they did it all the way through this time, and I saw some of that stuff evolve over time, and you have to be prepared to say, okay, this can be improved. This is what I'm doing now, but I can make this better, and I can make this coaching better, and those guys certainly did that over time. It's extremely important.
100%.
So it seems like this program helped you. Like, I just can't fathom the fact that you won a tour event as an amateur. Like, just to be in that situation, you just don't see it. So obviously this program helped get you in that situation. So was it just the fact that you were fearless as a player back then, or how did you cope with being in that situation?
No, looking back on it, it was a really weird week. No doubt about it. And I have to thank Aaron Badley actually for that invitation. So obviously Aaron Badley won the week before. And I think, when you surround yourself with elite players and you see some amazing things that they're doing and they're constantly pushing themselves, and competition, I think just breeds that next level. And it makes you look outside, the realms in which, you might be working in, just to try and consistently improve yourself. And we're all feeding off one another. Wayne Persick got an invite that week. Scott Gardner was the 4-man Australian team as well with Aaron Badley. So Aaron Badley won the week before. So, and you know what? Aaron Badley was an amazing amateur. Like, he was next level, but it was a level that was like just there. You know what? And we just got to keep working hard. And this is what happens with the progression, is that you leapfrog right the way from the age of 11 right the way through. You just have your peers hitting streaks and just pushing each other. So with Aaron Badley winning the Australian Open, one, he got us in because of Colin Phillips at the time, that was CEO of Golf Australia, got a call from Trevor Herden. Obviously, it was going to be great PR for Aaron Badley to play in that TPC, take up one spot. But Colin Phillips, the legend that he is, basically said, look, if Aaron Badley wants to get an invite, the 4-man Australian team are going to play. So actually having someone like Aaron, being so close to him and doing what he did, just gave us tremendous belief. So it was like, wow, you can do this. There's nothing to say we can't. But back in my day, we were brought up in a different mentality where you respect your elders. You kind of had your place in society, and you had to earn your stripes. Nothing came easy. You had to work hard for it, and it's all very, very true. But I think we had so much respect for the elite players that was kind of like our handbrake, is that you didn't disrespect, and you felt like even just getting an invite to that week, we were walking on their turf. We took away 4 spots of their Tournament Players Championship, which is the biggest event on the Australasian calendar, where you got 144 pros all playing for their livelihood, and we've just taken away 4 spots. So we were literally the most hated individuals playing that week. So we actually it was a really, really weird, sterile environment for the fact that there was not one pro there that wanted us there. That was it. But again, all I was thinking about was basically Aaron winning the week before and basically instilling this belief that we could go out there and win. So it wasn't so much about nerves. It wasn't so much about anything. It was just about, you know what, we can do this. We can win a professional event. Aaron Baddeley's just done it the week before. And it was a matter of when I won back-to-back in 2013. And I think so many people get caught up on these runs, you know, games building. Yeah, my game's building. You know, game's trending. And you hear all the time, my game's trending. You know, trending for what? What are you building for specifically? So they never say game is building to win next week. Game's trending to, I got to win into it. It's just this mythical trending. So I sat down and basically wrote out, with experience, will tell you certain courses that just might suit your game over 12 months. So, and basically I wrote down a list of golf courses that I believe that if I just played the golf that I know I can play around a golf course that I know well, that I've played well previously, if I can just basically just control the things I can control and just go out and play my game. So if I looked at myself in the mirror and said, you know what, if I played my game and basically it's close to my ability, the golf that I know I can play around these golf courses, I can win. And there's no resistance with that. It just sits well. There's just this, you know what, there's no objection there when I ask myself that question. So, and that's kind of what I did. And then I just let that rest and sort of, I kind of went into that, looking back on it, I kind of went back to that TPC where Aaron won. And then it sort of opened up the realization that, you know, when my elbow's correct, when I got this, and it's like, no. Well, if I just play to somewhat my ability, because Aaron won, and if I could play somewhere to my ability, you know, around this golf course, it's quite, you know what, it's quite inviting. I like it. I can win. So, and it was just a belief. It just opened up this Pandora's. And you know what? It's the world over as well. Brooks Koepka and Peter Uihlein, they kind of fed off one another. And you've got these rivalries, not rivalries, but even mates as well, where they feed off one another. And they just, one does something and you go, it just gives the belief for the next. And it kind of just a knock-on effect. And you look at Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, that whole era that comes out of college, they're all like smashing each other's heads in college. And then one guy gets his foot in the door on the PGA Tour and starts winning. And it's like, well, you know what? I can do that. I can do that. So I think rivalries are good. And it just keeps, as much as you are mates, you got the rivalry there that just keeps pushing you as well. So looking back on it, wasn't necessarily nerves at all. Like when I sit down on the couch, I can identify as a supporter. Sitting on a couch supporting someone is horrible. It's disgusting. So I was watching the Hockeyroos in that final of the Olympics, and my wife looked across and just went with that penalty shootout, and my wife's gone, "Oh my God, you're embarrassing. You're how do you even play golf like this? Like this is." I said, "Sal, this is honestly, this is nothing like competing." So sitting on the couch is horrible. So you can't draw any sort of parallels to sideline supporting compared to actually being out there. It's just a different mindset. It's a different realm.
Is it the fact that you've got control as a competitor, as a player, when you're out there doing it yourself, as opposed to on their sidelines? You can't control anything. You can't help them, essentially. You're just cheering from the sidelines.
Look, I think every tournament is different. Every tournament that I've won has been different in terms of the emotional state that you actually need to then obviously adapt yourself to, because it's sometimes, like China, for instance, I led by 5. It was a tough battle with Mikko Innolan the whole day. And then all of a sudden I got up and down on a ridiculous plank of wood. No reason, actually, just no reason why I should be getting up and down from that point, but I did. Hold a 40-footer on the next and a 50-footer on the next. I went to 5 shots in the lead pretty quickly over 3 holes. So you go from all of a sudden attacking, trying to get that lead, and then you've got it. And then all of a sudden it's just, you got 4 holes to play and you got 5-shot lead. It becomes psychologically, don't mess this up. So then you're just trying to hang on to that lead and you get in, and the tournament's kind of like done and dusted. It's over. So, and that's kind of like that's a different state to play golf in. It's not a very nice one when you sort of go into that defense where you just got to get it on the green. And then the other one is when I won in a playoff against Philip Archer, where it's just a very attacking mindset, and probably the most euphoric experience and feeling I've ever had. Chipping in the playoff against Philip Archer was just quite incredible. So they're all different feelings, emotions. They're subtle, but it's how you're able to adapt to that. And on back nine on Sunday, I mean, coaches are unbelievable. Coaches are incredible, and full respect to the coaches that are out there that help players obviously get into these positions. But back nine on Sunday, that's a tough one. That's instinct of a player. That's the true competitor. Because it's just your caddy. That's it. And then how you compete, how you deal with those pressures and stresses is up to the individual. And unfortunately, there's nothing the coach can say or do at that particular point.
Does it only come from experience, do you think? Is that this being in that situation as often as you can be? It's hard, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think so. It's probably a bit of upbringing. You know what? Psychologically, if you speak to lots of psychs, it's going to be environment that you grow up in as well. Whether it's that competitive environment that's instilled in you early on that you're able to obviously adapt to. But look, it's a tough one, isn't it? It's like you just got to experience it. Like you can talk about it and you can watch it on TV and you can go through all that, but there's also there's the actual experience. So even from a coaching level, you can watch someone on YouTube, you can read a book, but it's all just theory until you actually have the experience application side of it. So, and that's the most important part. It's just whatever you do, it's actually having to experience it and actually you learn from it, adapt it, and then make it your own. So you have to make it your own. So, and you kind of have to want to put yourself in that situation. You kind of have to want it as well. You have to want to get in that ugly zone and and you never, I don't know, I don't think there's too many people that are actually 100% happy in that area of, I think there's probably only one guy I've seen, and that's Tiger Woods, that just seems to revel in it, which I haven't quite worked out that being that comfortable in the situations that he's put himself in, seemingly. But obviously his coping mechanisms and how he deals with it is just obviously the best we've ever seen.
He's got some sort of system in place, hasn't he, that makes that work for him? He's the guy's a freak.
And I think being good, at the end of the day, I think there's a level of just being good. And if you're just that, tennis, we've seen it, where you just got to be just that little bit better, and it's impossible to beat your opponent, 9 times out of 10. But with golf, it's one of those areas as well where the number one golfer in the world can be beaten numerous times, more often than not. And you're going to lose more often than not. So, but Tiger had that amazing ability where I think he just knew he was just so much better. Like his proximity to the hole. Now we're looking at proximities and strokes gained, what he led in, and obviously how hard he worked off the golf course obviously was just immense to get to that level. So,
and you brought it up quickly in that answer there, but your playoff record is pretty impressive. I don't think you've ever been beaten in the playoff, have you? So, no. Is that something that's because you're relaxed? Because you're essentially either going to come first or second, aren't you? When you're in a playoff, you can't miss the cut from being in that playoff. But how do you cope in that situation where you're just out there playing off against one player or two players?
Yeah, look, I think Marcus Fraser is he's an amazing competitor as well. Like how he structures his game and how he plays. Is one thing, but also as well, just how he competes is another level as well. So, and he's kind of like he resonates with me for how hard he plays and how much he draws on himself to compete, to play. And I played against him in the final round in Korea, and it was a hard fought day. I was working with Warren Connor at the time, and we were working on some stuff just with myself, nothing else, no one else. It was just more about me and about my personality. He was a behavioral psychologist, so he was more about personality profiling and just being able to learn more about me. So it was a case of, he kind of said to me that day that, you know what, you just gotta stay in your own place. Don't watch anyone's golf ball. Just be in your own place, be in your own world, to get the best out of yourself. So it was a really, really hard fought day, and no one was giving an inch. And played with a Frenchman as well. I forget his name now. I shouldn't. He'll come back to me. But the three of us, we just played as hard as we could that day. And none of us were giving an inch. None of us were saying good shot. None of us were saying, but it was an environment that was great, because it was just, you know what? We're out here to do our thing. We're all professionals. Let's get on with it. Let's play hard. And the last two holes, hit it way right. I was struggling with my golf swing all day. And I was just getting up and down. I was just managing my game around this golf course, around Black Mountain. And then 17, a really bad tee shot, made a double, which I led by 2 with 2 to play. And then 18, I carved one way right, chipped it out, made 5 on a par 5, which is a gettable 4 comfortably. So Marcus Fraser had a putt on 18 for the win, which it just came up just short left. And then it looked like, it was all over. We go to a playoff, and it was just one of those things. It was in the playoff, I played poorly and I finished poorly, but because we gave ourselves a second chance, all of a sudden, you know what, we're back in this golf tournament. So off we went, and it was just a matter of, all I was thinking was, it's funny how you throw things out. And the way my mind was working, the sun was going down, and we pretty much only had one hole legitimately to finish this playoff. Otherwise, it was going to get ugly. What are we going to do? We're going to share the tournament. Are we going to come back tomorrow morning? Didn't want to do that. And as I was walking off the 18th tee, hit a pretty good tee shot. It was just a case of, I have to make a 3 up this hole. I have to finish it here, because someone's going to be making a 4. So, and it was just, that's all I really meditated on, was just making the 3. So as I was walking down the hill, I really focused on what I wanted. That was it. I just held it in my mind of what I needed to do to finish this, and got up there, hit a 5-iron. I'm not saying it's the reason why I hit a 5-iron to 4 feet, but it was funny how the green, it was just the most random green you've ever seen, with a massive tier that ran off to the left. It was, and the tier had kind of like a bit of an S bend in it. And the greens were like rock hard. It was like this table. So, and it was uphill 10, 11 meters uphill. So you couldn't really you could see half the flag, but it was just the most ridiculous golf shot. To sort of, when I got up there, kind of like the indentation was just on this spine. I had like probably 2 feet to land it in. Otherwise, it was down a hill. It was either coming back down to the front, or it was either going to catch the slight downslope, which Fraser's did, and go over the back of the green. So I was kind of just pitched on this pimple that was, I couldn't do it again. Give me another million golf shots, I wouldn't be landing on this same pimple. So, and it was kind of one of those things. It's just, you just put it out there, and it's amazing. Strength of mind just comes from holding pretty much in your mind's eye what you want to see happen, with no other thoughts escaping that. And that's kind of, you get out of that at times. You know, you go to that defense attacking, and then it was just, for me, I walked down that 18th hole, played the last 2 holes defensive, just trying to get it done, to then attacking. So, and probably a good way that probably some of the kids that might be listening to this could probably associate it with is match play, any kind of match play really, pennants or otherwise, where you're 2 up with 4 to play. Majority of the matches will actually be won for the person that's behind, for the fact that it goes from complaining, gets to a point now where there's necessity, and the mind now goes to this attacking, nothing to lose, full commitment. They see what they have to do. They know what they have to do in order to either get back in the match or halve it or win it. And everything becomes very, very crystal clear. The first 14 holes is just a matter of, they're just trying to make something happen. And it's like, everything becomes, there's clarity. And then there's more so clarity as well for the person that's taught with 4 to play. Because all he thinks now is, I just got to halve this hole or win it. It's all over. So now it becomes this defensive, just get it in play, which we can all associate with. We've all felt that, just to try to close out a match, when you know the energy that you feel from your playing partner is just all attacking, and it's all aggressive, and it's nothing to lose. and he's already lost in his mind, and he's happy to go down fighting. So, and there's that mentality where when you've got nothing to lose, all to gain, it's a good place to be in, but it's hard to stay there. So staying in that frame of mind constantly from hole 1 through 18 of what you want to see happen regardless of what's happening is a tough place to be in. And that's where strength of mind and the actual strength of will is a tough one to sort of try and be in that state all the time. Tiger Woods has that all day, every day. That state of mind, that will of what he wants to see happen regardless of what's happening.
I like it. So many good pieces of information in that answer. So appreciate you sharing that. I'm going to ask Fraser about that playoff when I get him on the podcast. I'll
even
get
to the
his story.
point. And he'll probably have a version as well where I absolutely snubbed him, and like I'm in death mode on that playoff hole, like full attack mode. Let's bury these fellas. Use the other descriptive, but so I was just so much, with Woz, and the whole day, like no one was giving an inch. There was not a word that was said all day. And then Fraser, the legend that he is, and he kind of like hit that 5-iron in there, and the crowd's going absolutely mental in the playoff. And like for the first time of the day, he turns back 20 meters up the fairway, he gives me the thumbs up, and he goes, "Rummy, fuck man, that's a great shot, man." And I was like scratching little Ronnie's head. My caddy was like just underneath. He wasn't very tall at all. So I'm scratching his head, and I'm in full death mode. And I kind of looked at Fraser, and he caught me off guard. I didn't know what to say. I was like, and he goes, "Oh yeah, no worries, mate. Yep, no dramas." And I think I kind of pissed him off a little bit, not intentionally. And I walked up next to him. I said, "Fraser," I said, "I'm so sorry, mate." I said, "Thanks." And he goes, "Oh mate, don't worry about it. It's all good." So, man, to this day, I feel really, really bad. But it was just, it's competition, isn't it? It's just when you're in the moment and you're like that, and the day wasn't about that. It was very much to the death. And it was the first olive branch that was thrown out there for the day. Anyway, so he'll have his version, but my God, it was a cracking day. It was hard fought, and full respect to Fraser though for his whole career, not just that, but he's a legend of Australian golf.
That's cool. I'll get his version of the story. But tell me about making the jump from Australia to playing European Tour golf. It must be tough, especially first year out. You've gone from inside of a program where everything's set out for you. Essentially, you do this, and this. And they do obviously try and teach you to do that. But you're out there by yourself, traveling from country to country, essentially in the European Tour. Tell me about the experience there.
Oh, it's bad. It was really bad. Like, this is back in the day. You have to remember, like, my day, to get back on topic, was we had no mobile phone, we had no internet, we had no Google, no YouTube. So, you know what? I grew up here in Perth, and pretty much like all of us, we had a 15-kilometer radius that was our knowledge base. So a 15-kilometer radius, the golf courses within that was basically your source of knowledge about what this game was all about how do I play this game, about what do I do. So I had Ross Metherell that was in that radius. So I grew up in Eastwick Park. Collier Park was about 5 k's away. So that was my local. And then I joined Royal Perth when I was 11. So that was another source of information with the pros that were there as well. So associating with in these environments, that was my knowledge base. And my knowledge base grew to basically what they knew. That was it. So how I played, how I practiced, that was gospel. And that's what I did. And thankfully enough, Ross Metherell was a player, an elite player, and a very accomplished one as well. So I got to caddy for him through the May circuit and so on and so forth. So I actually got introduced to this. So now when you go travel now, I had to go walk down to a tobacco store to basically, get a phone card, phone home. Didn't see anyone like this, have the familiarity of actually seeing someone face to face. So you were literally just basically out on your own. That was it for 6 months. And my first year, when I went away, obviously I'm a bit of a mummy's boy as well. And there was just a big, big shift to sort of go away, had to rent a house over in the UK, and I basically just had to tear off the Band-Aid, had to commit. And I remember the Irish Open, I missed the cut, and I came back and I just basically just cried and cried and cried and cried on the bed. And I did that most nights. I didn't cry because I'd missed a cut. It wasn't a case of that. It was just, I just asked the question, why am I doing this? What's this all about? But I kind of liken it to, I don't know why, but there's something that draws you back there. And there's just something that just, and I can get back on this topic later about my surgeries and stuff, but there's something that just keeps drawing you back internally, that drives you. And it's hard to explain it. So, and that's kind of like what it is. And Peter O'Malley, I think it's Jill, Pete's wife's brother-in-law. So he was an adventurist, and there's an amazing documentary on his kayaking from Tasmania through to New Zealand. I don't know whether you've ever heard of it, but it's an amazing documentary if you YouTube it. I forget his name now. Apologies, Tom and Jill. But he's paddling out, and Dick Smith basically tipped him $1 million, had this amazing kayak that he could basically link himself in and submerge himself in rough seas. He could tumble and everything else. So had all his food. I remember him sort of now paddling out into, this nothingness, and him crying, and everything's documented for the stuff that they never found him in the end with 1 day to go. He's kind of just, spoiler alert. Anyway, but on the way out, you could just see his family's on the beach, and you can kind of see the family over his corner of the right shoulder, and he's crying, like his eyes out, going, I don't know why I'm doing this. I just don't know why I'm doing this. Like, he was afraid, he was scared. He had the unknown in front of him. He didn't know what was going to happen. There's a chance he could die. He's going to be out there for 3 months or whatever it was, just paddling out in the middle of this, the deep blue. And he started crying. And I just thought, what is that? There's something in him that just drives him. And a lot of these extreme sports people, they've just got this calling, this something that just wants to just keep going. And there's many times where I wanted to give up and pack it in and cry and just ask the question. I fell asleep. I woke up the next day and I just kept going and just kept going. And it's hard to explain it, the actual sanity, you could say, in terms of like some of the situations I was in on the other side of the world. Just, I could pack it in and just come home and just be happy and content and just do something else. But something just kept driving me, and always has.
Was there a turning point where it started to become easier for you when you're over there playing, or was it just something
definitely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. And that was just experience. It was more my surroundings. So and I think Golf Australia are doing an amazing job with one, the funding for these kids that eventually turn, and then two, having houses over in the States where it's just a communal house where these guys can come, all get together, have barbecues, kick the football, work out in the gym, and just come together and just have a conversation. Simple as that. It was just having someone around me. That was the hardest part, is that I just had no familiarization with anything or anyone, like nothing. So then after a while, you're landing at these airports, and then after 2-3 years, everything just becomes like home. Obviously, there's lots more familiarity with everything, and then I'm starting to forge a few more friendships with people over there as well. So, and that just took time. That took a whole lot longer than what it should have done, I think.
Okay, we had a couple of audio issues there, but you were talking about getting more comfortable out on tour there. Yeah. So that was obviously a huge part of you performing over there. So talk me through that, how you got more comfortable over there.
Yeah. Well, that was just a case of just time. I think for time, I rented a place over there as well. So that started to feel like home. And then, at least from a week's off, I could actually just come back to a base that felt familiar, felt comfortable. And then even the areas that I was playing golf in, I was getting to know the local pros at certain golf courses I was practicing at. So, and pretty much every golf course on the planet, like literally, it's exactly the same. You got the 4 or 5 juniors sniffling around, being a nuisance. and then you got your elite players there as well that are playing all the time. So you get to meet the better players that are out there 5-6 times a week. You hook up with them, and you start forging relationships, and everything just becomes just a lot more comfortable. And that just takes time as well, but it's just putting yourself out there, and it's just introducing yourself, and being open to that as well. So not being so closed off and then hating the world and just wanting to come home, sitting in a hotel room or your apartment. So so for me, I was just it was very much like that. And then obviously technology started to come in over time as well. So then that made things more and more easier. So rather than just going down to the tobacco store to go find a card for £20, which would last about 3 minutes, it was very expensive at the time. So now we've got these plans with FaceTime and the rest of it. So that definitely helped ease that time away as well. And then I met Sally in 2006-07, which then from 07-08 we started traveling full time. Which then from that point, once you've got a partner and you're traveling, it's good fun. It's great times.
Was there certain players out on tour that helped you with that, getting more comfortable, or is there players out there that were just complete and utter pricks, essentially?
No, the Australian contingent back in 2000, God, we had almost 16 Australians out on the European tour back in 2000. So Jeff came over for a little while. I think he was just finishing up and going to the States, but God, you had Lucas Parsons, Terry Price, myself. There's Peter Lonard, Peter O'Malley, Nick O'Hearn. There was a whole bunch of them over there, which I roomed with. Actually, Lucas Parsons had a house back in 01, which he actually 02. Sorry, he let us crash with him as well. So I stayed with him for the whole year, which was amazing. So I just basically had a master chef, as you know. I think he went on master chef for a little while. So I knew his culinary expertise well before he was on that program. So, which was great fun. Peter O'Malley, who's absolute legend of Australian golf, he's looked after every Australian that's gone across there to date. So, and he was really, really accommodating with his accommodation over there, letting me stay with him, practice rounds, advice, everything. Richard Green, another one as well. So there was a whole bunch of them over there that was just, even just sitting down in the lunchroom, just having a chat, it was enough. So just to stay connected, we're talking about Australian issues, Aussie rules football, whatever it may be. We're connecting with home, which was great. So, and unfortunately, we don't actually have, or Golf Australia doesn't really have that link or that support over in Europe at the moment. But and most of the Aussies are sort of just fending for themselves on that side of the country. But still, I think it's just a great platform for the PGA Tour and a great inroads. I think Minwoo Lee has done an amazing job at that, winning the Vic Open and then winning a Rolex Series event. Very, very heavy with the world ranking points. So world ranking points is where it's at, I think, in terms of transition and then making yourself feel comfortable on that side. I think being able to compete and play, and then when you're playing at your best or somewhat comfortable with your game, I think what makes it easier is that if you're actually having results out there, it makes life a whole lot easier. When you're not having the results and you're playing half decent and not getting the results or missing cuts, I think that's more the contributor to actually making life a misery out on tour. So I don't think there's anyone out there that would really struggle if they ran top 5 every week and was winning flying private jets all over the place. I think your mindset would be in a pretty good place.
True, very true.
But I also know that a lot of the off-course sort of stability is what's going to create that performance on course. So, so I think getting across to Europe, having a slightly different golf courses, a little bit more comparable, I guess, to Australia and its conditions, a little bit more windy, but you're playing all over the place as well. So you're actually playing on different grass types, different conditions. So you're actually just getting a bit more of a holistic development of your golf game, I think, when you're playing over in Europe. while at the same time you're accumulating. It's a whole lot easier to accumulate world ranking points to get you inside that top 100, top 50. So, I mean, to think of Min Woo, he's won a big tournament with the Rolex Series event. It's incredible how he's got the top 50 in the world with only being out there for 2-3 years. So hard to do, but can be done.
Yeah.
So, and I think for those that just want to go straight to the States, I think it can be an undoing. Can be.
Yeah. Now, short game master. That's
Right.
is essentially what comes out when you hear your name mentioned. Now, before we get on to how that has evolved over time, and obviously part of that, as you said, is playing in Europe and playing all over essentially the continent, playing on completely different conditions week in, week out. I've got to talk about a rumor, and I've got to find out whether this is true or not.
All right.
Okay. Did or did not Tiger Woods reach out for assistance with his short game to you?
No. I'm sure he watched some of my YouTube video.
Because that was floating around for a while, wasn't it?
I'm sorry?
I'm sure that was floating around for a little while there. Tiger
look,
reached
honestly, come on. I mean, Tiger, he was probably up to his eyeballs on medication, and he hadn't chipped a golf ball. I mean, crikey. I would never put anything on YouTube after 2 weeks off, coming back into a few chip shots. I mean, come on, let alone months out of the game. So I think, I think it was everyone else's interpretation of the position that it was in. And I think for himself, complete trust. I mean, you're talking about possibly one of the world's best short games ever. Let alone, I mean, pretty much every aspect of his game was unbeatable back in 2000. It was flawless. But his short game in his hands, you're talking like no one's I don't think has got any more connection or intellect to the proprioception and the feel of his hands on that golf club and understanding where that leading edge in the bottom of the sole is. So it was only a matter of time before he was going to come back and just start kicking everyone's ass, which he did. But I think I wasn't expecting it because I know once you've got it, you can't just lose it like that. But I know a lot of players have searched for it and lost it. And I guess that's what everyone was just waiting for with Tiger. Oh my God, this is it. Like this is like Olazabal, same thing, kind of just played at such a high level, still grinds his ass off today and just never quite got back to that level. Seve, same thing. God, there's many. David Duval got to world number one, kind of lost it, never got it back. And I think everyone was just waiting, is this the moment? Is this the kiss of death for Tiger? But look, he's too smart. He's too brilliant. He's too good. So, but no, to answer your question, he was always coming back.
I'm disappointed. I thought that would be a really cool story if he reached out to the guru on short game stuff.
There's lots of smart people out there. So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
So talking about how it evolved, obviously you had a pretty good grounding from Ross and the coaches early on in your career, but how did your short game evolve over time? How did it change? How did it improve? Talk me through that.
Well, not really. I just practiced and practiced. I practiced mainly on my short game. My dad was always a big advocate of having the best short game in the world. You'd be the best golfer. And he just always believed that. So knowing that there's a bit more to it than that now, I worked really, really hard on my short game. So back in the day, you know what? The game's changed so much. Like you can't compare the era that we played and compare it to today's golf ball. It's not comparable. So we never really went to the gym purely for the fact that it wasn't so much how hard you hit it was just more the ball control. So it spun so much. It was all about being shallow and having the mastery of being able to shallow it out, control your spin, loft, and then that will control your ball flight. And that was part technique, it was part experience, and part of learning the game. Or is either if you can't, you better have a bloody good short game. But you could. And I remember Peter Fowler once said that he believed you can get up and down from anywhere around a green. Absolutely anywhere. There's a possibility of doing it. And I kind of believe that to be true with the golf ball that we used. It's just like literally you could spin it and check it any which way you wanted to. So, and now everything's just changed so dramatically. So I just worked really, really hard on my short game. I wasn't the tallest. I was quite small for my age. I was physically not strong. So I had to rely heavily right the way through up until I was 13, 14 on my short game just to make a score of it. And then sort of realized, and that's kind of like how I formed my game. And then technically I wasn't the best. I wasn't the best driver of the golf ball. My iron play was okay. It was pretty good, but just could not get the thing in play regularly enough, not like all my other peers anyway. So I've always thought if I could have driven it half decent through my career, then I would have won triple the amount of events that I would have won. But to sort of work on 60% of fairways and then, that 10 average, 11, I guess, greens as well, it really wears on you. And you just got to just keep grinding out weeks. So you got to be mentally really, really strong in that area. And I just went to the AIS, and I'll never forget. So I practiced, and I thought I had a pretty good short game. And then Ross Herbert basically just flipped it all on its head. And it was just, I think it was just mainly course management comes in many forms, but also as well course management around the greens, about how you play shots. And then the actual shot option was a big thing as well. So, and it's a bit like, I liken it to the TrackMan optimizer. So you got the optimizer, which gives you like your height and all your other parameters. But I can look at a lie, and there's like an optimizer for certain shots as well. So if I had a sand wedge that had 12 degrees bounce with my technique and my mental state, let's say these are your boundaries of your optimizer. So now on that lie, if there was 12 degrees, the optimization would just be all over the place. Even though my technique is in the blue, mentally I'm in the blue, perfect. And then all of a sudden I go to lie, it's perfect, it's in the blue. And now if I go 12 degrees of bounce in your bounce profile, all these things just go all up to shit. Yeah. So, because it doesn't matter about your technique. You can have a perfect technique and just try and play that same shot. It's not going to come off. So, and that's kind of like how Ross would sort of work his way around the green as well. And that was his genius. He had all the shots, but then he would pick a shot. I'll never forget it. My first week there, there's a bit of a hill. It sort of went down, had the pin in slight semi-rough, and he said, he dragged me in first person, said, "Brett, how would you play this?" And I said, sort of back in my back foot, and I just bump it into the bank and I just let it chase down. And he goes, "Wrong." I've gone, "Oh."
There you go.
I've gone, "Man, I've got a tidy short game." And I've gone, "What do you mean? It's wrong." And I know there's 100 different ways of playing a golf shot, but then again, it probably wasn't the best optimized option. So he said, "Scotty Gardner, you come in." So Scotty goes, "I'll just open this up." He was a second year, so he knew. So it was a bit of a loaded question, the prick. So, and he goes, "Because of this slope just here and the pins at the base of it, I'll open it up and I'll get quite aggressive and I'll flop it in the air. And if I whiff it a little bit, because of the downslope, my margin for error is now increased. So it'll roll that down the hill. It's going to be soft enough, basically roll down to the pin. Or if I catch it too good and land on the flat, because of the height, it's not going to really go anywhere. So my margin for error is going to be increased there." He goes, "Well done." So I've gone, all right. I've got a lot to learn. So, and it's stuff like that. So it was learning lies as well. So lies is a big thing. Probably the biggest thing for me is that only through experience. You got theory, you got all the rest of it, but looking at a particular lie and then knowing how that's going to come out of that grass is really, that takes a lot of experience. And then it's feel. So you got all the technique and you got everything else. And then if you had your best friend on a putting green, you said, "Rightio, he's never played golf before." And you go, "Rightio, before you hit this putt, this is how you grip it. This is how you stand, eyes over the golf ball, balance neutral, shoulder width part." You could talk him through it all. And he would go, "Rightio, have your practice swings, same length back, same length through thereabouts, accelerate through the ball." You can tell him all these principles, right? And the last thing he's going to say, from 40 feet, he'll look up and go, "How hard do I hit it?" And you're going to go, well, you could pull out the whiteboard and you go, "Well, the ball weighs this, right? Gravity is this." And you could smack up all these equations with the drag of the surface and the grass running at 9 on the stimp. So, and again, it'd be like, all right, that's great, but how hard is that? So, well, experience it. That's called feel. So get up, and that's the first thing that any player is going to experience is feel. And he just might hit it 8 feet in front, or he might go bang and it's going to go on the other side of the putting green. And you go, well, welcome to golf. A little bit softer than that. Right? So for me, there's that element of feel that the very, very, very first golf shot you ever hit in your life, and that feel that you take from it should be the last thing you think about for the rest of your life before you hit a golf shot. It's just pure feel. Forget about the technique and go back to what that feels like, what that flight feels like, how you want to land it, and the feeling and the tempo of the shot. There's that, but then there's experience. So experience can only teach you what that feels like in terms of the prediction of what is going to happen. So now around the green, Gary Player said there's not enough hours in the day because there's too many golf shots around it that you need to be able, that you can basically invent and make up with slopes and tiers and everything else. So, and that's true. So to play a particular base line golf shot, neurologically, your body can adapt to that feel and that repetition, and you just call on it on the golf course. Anything outside of that, you start opening it up in realms where you've never been to or experienced or had that muscle memory to now trust it that, you know what, I can move the golf club in this direction and it's going to go up in this fashion. You have to train that. And for me, I've hit thousands and thousands and thousands of golf shots, which I've got a database. It's like a filing cabinet of golf shots that neurologically my pathways have been thickened so much through the repetition of a golf shot that I've played, of many variant of golf shots, that I look at a lie and I look at the landing area and my filing cabinet automatically just flicks through to bang, that's the one. That's the shot you want right here. And then it's a feeling cabinet that I basically now just attune myself to through practice, like theory and all the rest of it. And you can listen to guys on YouTube and talk wide, like, what is that? Like, what are those? It's all just theory until you can actually physically step up there and then reproduce it and then feel where it is. But it's through the repetition. So for me, and my evolution, I've just chipped millions of golf balls and I've just got millions of repetition on hundreds of variants of predictable outcomes that I've basically previously played that I can draw on, and only experience has given me that. So trying to instill that into a young kid, possible. Can't do it because they have to own it. You can't just say, oh, you just got to do this. They actually have to experience it and then make it their own, make it comfortable, make it instinctive. And it's only through time. It's only through time. So when guys come to me and they're playing off, 8, I say to them, how many times a week you playing? I say, oh, playing once a week. And I say, oh, so you're playing off 18. Yeah, how'd you know? And then next guy comes to me, oh, I'm playing twice a week. I say, you're playing off 14, 15? Yeah, how'd you know? So unfortunately, the game, it only gives you what you're prepared to put into it. So to get to that elite scratch, you got to be playing 6, 7 times a week. You got to immerse yourself in it for like 2 or 3 years before you'll even have a chance of getting somewhere in that realm where you can basically take the variety of golf shots that are out there and make them instinctive and make them your own. There's too many golf shots out there that's basically going to trip you up and call on that filing cabinet. If you don't have it, then, wow, you're going to struggle at certain aspects of golf shots or parts of the golf course that are out there. That's why Tiger, working for 12 hours a day ever since he was 3 years of age, he's just got so much information, so much in his filing cabinet to draw on instinctively as well as competitively. Then he can start to rely on his competitive streak of just forgetting about all that. And that's just sheer will and want of wanting to get this ball in the hole or hitting the shot, chipping it in, or, he's got the feel for it. That's it. Like, he's just pure feel. Like some of those golf shots where he's following through like this, or it's like, you can't teach that. It's just playing. It's in there. So, so for me, that's kind of like my journey, and then going out there and playing these golf shots. So for me, I think my reputation came about when you sit down at the lunch table, and reputations come from the next big thing coming out is going to be hitting golf shots that, is either can't be hit or you shouldn't be hitting. And that's pretty much what the elite have, is that they all have golf shots that you'll play with them and go, I don't have that golf shot. I can't hit that at all. So that's what separates them. So for me, it's not so much missing it short on a slight up slope to a middle pin and you chip it up there nice and close. It was, my reputation came from being on a down slope on a hard pan to a short pin downwind and hitting it to here. It's like, there's no reason you should be hitting it to there. It's not justifiably in any realm correct, or even how can I work that out? How have you done that? So, but this is back also as well. I think with TrackMan, Stevie Williams said when all these green books came out, like, it was a huge disservice to him for how his knowledge that he's accumulated over time through experience and through his professionalism was an advantage for Greg and all of his players that he caddied for, because there was this not much information out there. There weren't many caddies that would go out there and roll balls around every single part of the green and look at rough types and thicknesses around the green and go, that's okay, but that it's a little bit thicker over there. So, and he would map all this stuff out. Now it's all just there in front of them. So TrackMan's another one. So TrackMan is another, I guess, institution where they've just come out with information. Of course, it's got to get certified, level 1, level 2, go beyond it. Go to TrackMan University and you're a genius. We're all geniuses. But I'll never forget, in 2000, I'm hitting draws out of a bunker with an open face, and none of them could work it out. Just so that was my advantage. I got a massive advantage around the greens. And even though you would tell them, and they're still like, yeah, wow, they're a little bit baffled with it. So Sebi did the same thing, where there was, it didn't matter like where he got his information from. He just worked it out. He just knew that if he did this and this, being an intuitive mind, I'm guessing like he would have been, like myself, and through the hours that you put into it, you just start to work these things out. And I think the silly thing is that growing up, every single pro shop that pretty much almost I walked past had a Henry Griffiths club fitting system. And they had a sandwich in there, the most lofted golf club, and they had a red drilled hole, red metal rod that would go into this face. This is back through the 90s. And then you could just start to now do this with it, start to work it around, just see where this thing's going. Go out in the chipping green and go, right. Okay, that's why the slope's doing that. And then you just start to piece things together. So even to the point where Scotty Drummond won the PGA, an amazing player. I played with him the Irish Open and he's missed it on the first hole just to the left, and these balls above the feet. He has to grip it down the shaft, and I'm standing just to his left, and the face is like literally looking like this over here. Yeah, and he's standing there like this elite professional, just wins the PGA. And he hits this shot, and it's just like literally just pings out, pin eye perfect, 15 feet. I moved a bit further out the left. And he's kind of like, he's looked at his face, and he's looked up at his caddy that's standing up on top of the bank. He's going, man, that's hit a rock. It's like he's digging back into the grass looking for the rock. And I was like, wow, this is 2004, 5. So TrackMan is just genius. And the information that's out there now with everything, force plates, 3D, Ryan Lumsden, Dr. Rob Neal, those boys have been around for a long, long while. So they've done some massive, huge inways into the biomechanics of the golf swing and the body, how it moves. But that whole face interaction is amazing. So, and I think a lot of the players these days, I mean, they're spoiled for the information that's out there, considering when we grew up, like literally our information source was 15K radius from where we lived for all of us. So until we got out there and started to speaking to other, experienced professionals, and luckily enough for me, I was introduced to obviously Ross Herbert early doors, went from there.
Now, you spoke then about losing your advantage, or people with that advantage and then having it taken away from them. Did you find when you played in the US that maybe the course setups took that short game away from you, so to speak, because it wasn't quite the same as in Australia or Europe?
Not necessarily. It was just more, I didn't really have the surroundings over there. I felt very uncomfortable. And then also as well, I went from using a broomstick putter And then I just changed. I conformed, should I say, to the ideology of what a PGA professional looks like. And that was my undoing. So I used a broomstick since 2004. I went across there, and then Scotty Cameron gave me a whole bunch of putters, and it just didn't feel right using a broomstick. I came 8th in my first event. And then after finishing 8th, I switched to a standard putter, and I putted with a normal putter for the rest of the year. And I just didn't feel like me. I just didn't feel, and I'm not saying that that's the only reason, but if I had my time again, I would have just continued just doing me. And I saw Mac O'Grady as well in the first 11 weeks, which was a massive undoing as well. So, but it's kind of like what I had to do. And it was great experience spending time with Mac. Don't get me wrong, like his information is phenomenal, but it's different to going through to a school and actually sitting down in a classroom and learning from him. So, and again, he tries to manipulate and change someone's like literally personality. Just seemingly likes to have fun with it or otherwise. And basically he was telling me what to do, how to think. I remember, with interviews and stuff like that, it was just a really, really weird time in my life. Very confusing of just, can't I just keep doing what I'm doing? Can't I just be me? And it just felt very, very weird. So after 11 weeks out there on the road with Mac, it was just a very, very confusing time. And then sort of left there, and then those that know Mac O'Grady just completely disconnected all communication. And then just here I am, first year out on the PGA Tour, spending 11 weeks with this legend of the game that's really impressionable. Just trying to do the right things, just walking around on eggshells, just not being me, just snaps it off and just leaves me out there. And now I'm walking around thinking, oh, is it me? What have I done? Is the other PGA professionals, what are they thinking of me? Have I done something wrong? But that's Mac, and yeah, so it was just a really, really confusing time. So I was still, and then Matt Beltram, who was my coach in the UK, he was treading on eggshells as well, because it's all part of the whole program and the process of being in the Mac stable and being coached under Mac, and all his disciples then have to sort of conform with him. So Matt was kind of like a little bit hesitant to coach me, because if now Matt coaches me, now he's out of the program. But I only saw him a couple of times throughout the year, and it was just a really weird year. So it wasn't so much anything to do with my belief or the courses or anything like that. I mean, they're amazing golf courses, all of them. But it was just that whole experience was just a bit of a flop for me for my first year. And I just, as experienced as what I was, looking back on it, I just made a lot of errors, which I wouldn't have gone to Palm Springs. I wouldn't have associated myself with Mac. I would have just kept doing what I'm doing. Stuck with my guns, got Matt over a few more times, and just kept using my broomstick. So it was working. So, and then all of a sudden, the whole year was just flipped on its head, and it was over like that. And then out.
Such a fine line between being successful and not. It's
it really tough. Is. Yeah,
it's tough.
But also as well. But in saying that, I still would have committed myself to going back, Q school and the rest of it. But my wife, siblings, myself as well, and this is something to think about for the young kids as well, is that America is a huge carrot, and it's the ultimate testing ground, if you like. But it's a full commitment where you're going to be living there for the rest of your life. And I had a chat with Greg Chalmers when he came back a few years back. When you're coming back to Australia, he said, "Oh no, my tombstone's in Dallas. That's it. I'm living there." So I just found that, and I realized that when I went across in January, that if I'm going to commit to this PGA Tour, like that's it. I'm not coming home. Like you kiss your mum and dad goodbye, and if they can get across and see you, great. But you're not coming back. So Europe is great for the fact, particularly in Australia, Perth, Fraser, Wade, that are out there now playing. It's great for them for 6 months, you can base yourself in the UK, and then for 6 months, you can base yourself in Australia, play all the co-sanctioned events. So it's a bit of best of both worlds, where you actually get to spend time with the family. You got that you almost got like and 6 months is I actually found was a really, really good time where you miss going back away, and then you're kind of over it and you're kind of looking forward to coming home. And that was kind of like the to and fro, the yin and yang of that 6 month period where you're itching to get back over there, and then sort of just had enough, itching to come back home, see the family. So, and that's a real big draw card for mental stability, for the mental side of tour life and going out there and playing. You don't have to go to America. You don't have to go prove yourself on the biggest stage. You don't have to throw all your eggs in one basket. So because of just, you get a little bit lost over there as well. But so yeah, you just got that good grounding, and that's what I liked about the European tour. So I quickly realized that as well while I was over there. My heart wasn't in it fully for the fact that I knew that, wow, I had to make up my mind that this is it. And I didn't want to do that. So, and I know a lot of the guys are still over there, Scotty Gardner and those boys, Cam Percy, that have gone over there. They're living over there, and that's it. But I just wasn't prepared to do that.
Interesting there. That's cool. But you've stepped into the coaching world as well at the moment. So you're doing some coaching, and one of those international coaches who's jumped on you as the short game expert has had you present with Andrew Rice. You were involved with Coach Cam. So how do you go about articulating what you do as a player into those students when you're actually coaching them? That must be challenging as well.
Really challenging. It's really challenging to, not so much to dumb it down, but I've just, from where I've come from coaching elite players in terms of giving advice since I can remember out on tour. So guys that are struggling in the lunchroom, I kind of look at your chipping, spend 3 hours with them, talking about short game, helping them out, playing different shots. And then, so to actually associate yourself with the world's best players, world's best talent, that can articulate and understand the terminology, that was easy. Then coming back to a 20 marker, that you got information that's just overwhelming with sort of like the direction where you know they need to go. But as well, I think, for me, I can get caught up in the fact that I see everyone that just wants to get better or play off a scratch or head them in that direction. But if you're playing once a week, there's only so much you can do. And to be realistic, it's all just about just getting the ball, good contact, getting the ball in the air, getting some consistency with their shot shape, with what they have, and then just making them enjoy the game. And then a bit of course management. But then again, you see them stuck in their way for the fact that there's one particular gentleman that's basically flat green, flat surface, varying lies. He's chipping it pretty well. I'm getting him chipping it quite nicely with the 60. It's making contact and he's getting a bit of check. It's nice. And it's like, look, you know what? But he wants to break 40. So he leaves himself that 40 range, 35, 40 range, which he can just make a double flubbish chip, make it just as quick as that. So I was like, look, do me a favor next time you play, if you want to crack this 40 mark, because he's around 41, 42, 41s. He hit 40 the other day. I'm like, mate, just grab your hybrid in these situations. And I want you just to spend the next, half an hour just dabbling around with this. I said, just grab your hybrid, grip it like this, and just run it along the ground. It's foolproof. You're going to be on the green. You make it 5 at worst. He goes, yeah. So he plays a few and he's getting the hang of it. He goes, yeah. He goes back to his 60 and he goes, nah, but I like that. Look at that. So there is a technical element. Yes, there is that appreciation of being able to hit the shot, and then there's just the practicality of being able to make a score. That transferable shot option that I was talking about with your zones, with your optimizer. So it's really interesting. It's lots of fun, and it's just lots of fun. It's an element that I know that you just have to put yourself and immerse yourself in that situation. So with my bridging at the moment, I noticed in the first year, you can't do lessons. Second year, you can do X amount of lessons. And then third year, still only X amount of lessons. And it's like, well, that's where all the theory is good and well, and all the practicality is good and well, but it's only philosophy until you actually experience it. And the experience is where you're going to do all your growth in the experience. That's it. That's where you're going to do 98% of your learning. And once you've got a basis, and once, I guess for young kids, it's actually now having the development then to learn, a golf swing or a structure or how you want to swing. We've all got our philosophies on that. A lot of kids probably don't have it at 19. So that's probably where they're going to be walking into a lesson, maybe feeling a little bit nervous or anxious, knowing, what am I going to tell this guy? So, so I think for me, it's going to take me many years before I can become a top coach. Just like it takes many years to become an elite professional. You just don't just go walk into it and then have the experience. So here I am. I walk into the AIS Golf Program, and there's Dennis McDade. And Dennis is starting his journey. It's back in 1996. So from 1996 till now, Dennis has immersed himself in coaching philosophy, the teachings and learnings. He's given, I wouldn't know how many lessons he's given through that trial and error and that experience of learning about what works, what doesn't for players. So I've played for the last 21 years professionally and before that. But so now, I just walk into coaching now. I just expect that I'm just going to know the ropes and just to know all the ins and outs of coaching. Nope, not going to happen. So, and that's why the bridging program has been so amazing. My only not to be paid for it, but at least sit in. I think they're just, but you know what, it's a tough gig, traineeships, because there's lots of stuff. You have to do your hours and everything else. But I'd like to see more if you want to go down that realm of coaching as well. And not all of them want to coach, so that's a tough one as well. So to be restricted so heavily if you want to coach is a little bit, you're holding the reins back on someone that just wants to go, but or at least learn and be comfortable with it. So for me, I'm certainly not saying I'm the world's best coach, but I'm very, very good in my area, but still lots to learn in terms of even just delivering information.
No, that's cool. I just you hear the passion in your voice when you talk about improving and continue to grow into something different as opposed to playing and growing into coaching. That's really, really cool. So I think anyone who's coming and getting some coaching from you is certainly going to a good quality person who's only going to get better and better over time, which is really cool.
Yeah. Look, it's just, and I don't know, the teaching code, there's so much information out there now. I just find that there's my philosophy, if it is one, but is that being professional is that you've got a responsibility to the individual. So whoever that is that comes to see you, I believe it's every PGA professional's obligation to obviously teach him with the knowledge, best of his ability, with the knowledge that he or she may have at the time, to help that individual and give time and your passion and your knowledge to that individual. But what's out there circulating now is just a different world, isn't it? It's I don't know, we all need to make a living, but it's and I think it's great. Like it's up there for speculation as to whether it actually helps or hinders a lot of the stuff that's out there on social media these days. And it's just whether you just want to take that simple swing thought to the range tee and let's have a go with that this week. So there's plenty of those people as well, but my philosophy is definitely is exactly that: is to actually connect with the individual, to help the individual for retention in the game, to make them enjoy it, to give them experiences, to actually give them a taste of my life, where I've been and the joys that golf can bring. I think that's a very powerful tool. I think that we all actually possess. And I think it's very underrated.
It's a pretty good starting point anyway, isn't it, when it comes to coaching? If you set up that relationship first. And,
absolutely.
Certainly a pretty good starting point. Brett, thank you so much for your time. I've kept you way too long. You've been really generous sharing your information, but there's a few questions I'd like to throw to everyone. So I'm going to throw those at you now if you don't mind. So what advice for coaches starting out there have you got?
If I can I'm thrown in that same boat. So actually, for me, my advice would be: have you got any advice for me, Brent? So lots to learn.
Tune into the Coaching Uncovered podcast to hear all the previous coaches talk about the answers.
Yeah. Oh, look, I think study. There's so much out there, isn't there? But I think for myself anyway, like with what I know with my short game anyway, but it's I think it's just really just having the belief in what you're delivering. I think you just need real belief, real conviction. And that's that part can take a little while. Sometimes it doesn't really necessarily matter so much what you're saying, but it's the conviction, the passion, and the belief that the student needs to buy into. So if it's a little bit harder or scratching your head with it, then it's I think that could well, for myself included, in my experience, can be a little off-putting. So hard to trust.
Makes sense. So this one's probably a bit more in your wheelhouse. Advice for players out there.
Yep. Make it your own. Like, listen, take it all in, but don't take it as the gospel. Don't take it for even the most valued opinions on the planet. Still make it your own. Still try to see through it. If it doesn't work, don't continue to try and make something work, and don't be afraid to say, no, I don't like that. This is not working for me, or that doesn't suit me. You really have to take ownership. For the elite player anyway, really has to really dissect between hanging too much. Like there seems to be like two different individuals on the planet, that one will listen to a coach and say, look, you know what, you're never going to make it because your golf swing's here, physiologically you can't do this, you're not lifting this, you're not strong enough, you're not in these realms, you're never going to make it until you change. So he goes, yep, nods his head, yep, you're right. And then goes the driving range just to working on it. And you got the other kid that goes, you can't do this, you can't do that because of these reasons. And you go, F you, mate, what shot you want to see? High fade, low draw. And he would just prove you wrong because he's just got that much belief in his ability. So those kids, there are not many of them out there, but I think so many kids are actually just getting caught up in this model, this framework, where golf is about, Sevi would talk about it with the old guys. It's about painting a canvas, it's you're your own artist, and golf is about working a golf ball and manipulating and just painting this canvas and getting a feel for it intuitively and knowing your game. The more you give of yourself and the more you give away of yourself, the more you won't know yourself or your own game. It's about being true to yourself and listen to that voice inside. Listen to that inside, because that's going to lead you the way. If you want it, you got to listen to it, and just that's kind of like that's what I'll be giving.
I like it. I like it a lot. If you had the chance to go back and change something in your career, would you go back and change anything? Is there anything that you would do?
Yeah, look, I'd probably have more, but again, like, it's all circumstantial for what we had back in the day. But 100%, I would be looking at surrounding myself with a better team, better support networks. 100% more on the psychology, and more knowing of myself. Warren Knorr, for instance, just personality profiling, which they've all got now. They're also like tapping into that, but certainly not actually having that back when I was a kid. I think really probably derailed me at certain points in my career, and then took me a whole lot longer to get back on track from those derailments. So I think if having that support network and those people around, I think would have been the only thing that I would have changed. Outside of that, nothing.
Keeping the broomstick in the bag, maybe, when you're in America?
Yeah, keeping the broomstick in the bag. Yeah, definitely, 100%. And I also would have worked more on my powerlifting as well. Like 2000, we saw Tiger Woods all jacked up, and I was just in the gym, just lifting, just doing upper body weights and back and chest, and just trying to get all buff and have these little chicken legs walking around. And then I definitely would have done. But then again, they talked about powerlifting was just the absolute death of your golf game. Yeah. Back through the 2000s, it was like, what are you doing, man? You're doing deadlifts? What are you doing? So there's lots of things that, even changing your golf swing. Don't change your golf swing. Can't change your golf swing. It's the death of you. All these sayings and these complete misperceptions of what we grew up with. There's lots of things that I would have changed, but not much. Mainly the psychology part, having that team around me. That's the number one thing.
All good. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Ooh, preparing for the seniors tour.
Yeah.
So,
in Australia or overseas?
Anyway, probably Europe. Europe would be, and even give the US a crack as well. So, but Europe, with my winners category, I think the first 12 months you get an exemption.
Okay.
If you've won X amount of events over there, I think it's one or two events, I think. So I'll head on over there and give that a go. But I'll just be working on my coaching and in that direction, starting up an academy. Ultimately, once I finish my time and get my qualifications.
Nice. Where do you go when you're sourcing new information to improve yourself? Are you a podcast person? Is there websites you go to?
Yeah, look, it's just the internet, and then people's referrals as well. So people in the industry have got, if you ask around the right people, the right questions, there's plenty of people out there that's going to help you. So, and there's seems to be like this simmering underground of information that's definitely out there, just either for getting the one up on your competitors or otherwise. But and there's lots of information that's out there. So, and it's all through Google or the internet or books, but mainly it's going to be just through word of mouth through the industry. And obviously, I wouldn't mind getting over to the PGA show as well over in the States, Orlando. I think that'd be a pretty cool experience with all those talks. And there's lots of, like Andrew Rice, there's lots of those series as well coming out these days as well. So if you're prepared to invest in your future and your knowledge as well, I think I think there needs to be some amount of money through your annual budget that you've got to put aside for exactly that, for your own development. So don't think that you try and do it for free or try and skirt the expense of it. Just if it costs, it costs. So, and knowledge is knowledge.
Makes sense. I like it. Plugs. Where can people find you? Have you got a social media presence anywhere where they can get in touch? Do you want to continue the conversation?
Yes, I've got I think there's a link through Instagram, which has my Hotmail there. Outside of that, just Wembley Golf Course. So I'm around. Once I get out of here Monday, I'll be back to working out at Wembley. So I'm out there pretty much every day.
Nice.
So
I'll put some links in the show notes for everyone so they can find you and get in touch there. And there's always there's plenty of good stuff on your Instagram. It's always nice to check out what you're doing in there. And Wembley over in Perth is a pretty good setup these days with the good range and all the.
It's amazing. It's truly amazing, and there's room for growth there as well and improvement. So they're constantly looking forward. So look out.
No, really cool. Well, Rummy, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming in and talking to me. You've been really generous with your time, and
no worries, bro.
Hopefully you're out of quarantine soon and you can get back to doing what you love. But I appreciate you coming in and talking to me.
Cheers, mate. No, I enjoyed it. Thanks so much, mate.